All right, welcome to the Living Legends podcast, coming to you live from downtown Osaka.
Yeah, boy, let's go.
Let's do it.
We should hop into it. So just let me know when
I'm
when
recording.
we're good.
Yeah, so we can just roll now. Actually,
Excellent. I will take that as we are good. Welcome, one and all, to another episode of the Living Legends podcast. I am your host for this week. I was missing last week, but I'm back with a vengeance, baby. I'm Bill from the Spike Feeders, and joining me as always are my two excellent, lovely co-hosts. We have, let's go alphabetically. I always just coin flip in my head whether I'm going to do alphabetical or reverse alphabetical, but we're going to kick it over to Az. How you doing, baby?
yeah, I'm doing pretty well. Literally just got back from Japan a few days ago, so straight back into work. Well, I got back last week, I should say. Got back on the Thursday, still had Thursday and Friday off, had the weekend to climatise, but now I'm back in the UK time zone, back in the freezing cold, the pissing rain, ready to go again on the podcast. And that's why we didn't record last week as well, because I was travelling back, so I couldn't do any sort of in the air sort of shenanigans or anything like that. I couldn't do that. So, but yeah, we are back, and there's a lot of news coming out of the World Championships for Osaka, the keynotes and everything, as well as some very, very well-timed more B&R stuff, which just happens to fall on our lap every time. But yeah,
we tend to get lucky with that.
I mean, screw that. I want to talk about Arachne. So I'll talk about Arachne later in the episode.
Yeah.
And speaking of talking about Arachne, who will be talking about Arachne? Let's kick it over to Kel.
Oh, hello. I'm Kel. I like Arachne and assassin stuff. There's a lot of. We'll get into the Arachne stuff later. How's it going, everyone? How's it going? As quick question. I don't know how deep we're gonna go into your Japan stuff, but do you have like the post Japan malaise? I've seen you posting a little bit on social media, and you're like, I wish I was there. It's like that meme of Wolverine like laying on his bed, longingly looking at that picture, and it's you, and it's just like the city of Osaka as the picture.
Yeah, it's pretty much like that, because it's a very different world out there. For foreigners as well, it's just like a dream come true, especially if you're a nerd and you're a geek and you love all that sort of thing. It's quite surreal to come back to reality, and a lot of people are feeling it as well. A lot of people that I were hanging out with having that similar sort of post-depression vibes post-event depression vibes that you get from having a great time with all your friends from all over the world, and now suddenly you're back in wherever your country is doing your day-to-day job again, and that hit home for a lot of us harder just because of how amazing Japan is in general. So I can't speak for people living in Japan. I don't have that experience. I have an experience from a tourist perspective, and it was great. I'd love to go back there immediately, but I've been trying to cook my own noodles and make fresh food and try and live vicariously through that. But yeah, it was a great trip. I vlogged pretty much every single day. I don't know how I managed to release it because I was so drunk on some of those days.
Brother, I watched all of your vlogs for the most part, or at least listened to them because I had them going on while I was doing other stuff and editing and whatnot.
Yeah.
But bro, it seemed like you were drunk or partying like
every day.
I'm gonna throw out a number, but like 89% of the time. Mm-hmm. Like if you weren't at the Flesh and Blood venue, you're like either actively drinking or walking towards a kombini to get booze, specifically like Strong Zero, which is really funny. Which is really funny because I've spent about a month in Japan this year total, and I've not drinking a single Strong Zero, and you've drinking probably like I don't know, like how many cases do you think how many 6-packs do you think you've drinking?
Quite a lot. And they weren't just the regular like Coke-sized cans either. They were the tall boys.
Gotta get the tin cans.
And someone told me a story that I had to drink 3 tall boys, and if I was still standing, then I was honorary Japanese. I don't know.
What?
I don't remember who said that, but I had to take on the challenge.
It doesn't surprise me that you don't remember.
Yeah.
What's the percentage, like the alcohol percentage on a Strong Zero?
I think
like the ones that you were drinking.
I think it's 9% for the small ones. So maybe double that for the big ones.
So 18% alcohol for the drink?
I think so, yeah. I mean, they were very strong. I don't remember the precise alcohol limits, but yeah, it was basically you have to drink them cold. Obviously, this is not going to turn into a professional drinking how-to podcast, but yeah, you have to drink them while they're cold, because if they go warm, you can really taste the alcohol. While they're still fresh out of the fridge, they're quite refreshing still because they're quite fruity. You don't notice you don't notice the alcohol in them, but yeah,
I think that's why they're considered to be potent, because you don't really recognize or notice the alcohol in them. I drink a lot of. I don't really drink a lot, but when I do, the stuff that I drink tends to be pretty high proof, because a lot of ciders just tend to be like 10 to 18%. Like I drink a lot of local ones that tend to be like pretty strong like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was just curious.
Yeah, no, I looked it up just so that we have real numbers. It looks like the King cans are the same percentage. They're still 9%, but you're getting a 500 milliliter can. And like a comparable, like if you wanted to get like a King can of cider, according to Google, this could be wrong. Shout out webrestaurantstore.com, I suppose, for this information. Most hard ciders are between 4.5% to 7% alcohol by volume. Some ciders have as high as 10 or 12%. So like, this is on the higher end of like a sweet drink that you can have lots of. So if drinking it cold means that you can't taste the alcohol at all, that's horrifying. Yeah. And I want one.
Yeah, they are. They are very good. I think that's what it is. It's 9%. It's 9%. Doesn't matter what measure you have it in. It's the same percentage. So I think if you have the smaller ones, it actually probably tastes more potent because it's less distilled, less sort of. There's less of it, so it means it's more distilled. Yeah. So I think by drinking the larger ones, you're diluting it a little bit more. That's what I was trying to get at.
Just to circle back, when I was saying percentage, I meant proof for cider. So when I said 10 to 20%, I meant 10 to 20 proof, which would be half. That's kind of how it works.
5 to 10. Yeah.
But
yeah, it looks like you had an insane time in Japan. Looks like the bike trip went well too.
Yep.
Which is great. There was a little bit of a hiccup, which people that follow you on social media are aware of. But we won't get into that too much. You know, it's happened. Nothing bad came of it.
Yeah, it's a funny story to tell. It's an interesting one to make people aware of as well. Is that. You can go to these places and have fun and get drunk and stuff, but the danger of that is losing your wallet, which did happen to me. And it was on the fifth night, which was the night where I caught up with James White at the meet and greet, and I followed him up on that drink, and he said, let's do it. And he came to the arcade bar where, you know, me and the Irish lot and Kiki and Elaine and the stuff were, and that. And everyone was shocked, was like, what the hell's James doing here? And I was like, just thought I'd bring him out for a drink. Everyone was like, what the hell's going on, Az? But yeah, and we would have seen at the start of this video, or heard at the start of this video, that there is a new Living Legends podcast intro. That was done with James on that night. After he came out for a drink, we came outside and did a intro in front of a takoyaki fried octopus ball stand. Where was I going with this? Yeah, wallet. So make sure that you have fun, but make sure you know where your belongings are at all times. It could have been a lot worse. I could have had my phone stolen, my GoPro stolen, which had all of my sick footage on it. That's all I cared about. I was like, well, where's my GoPro? Because I captured so much. Right. I captured so much sick footage, and I knew that I could just cancel my cards and still operate through PayPal. And I had a few messages from people that I'm not going to name saying that, you know, do you need anything? Do you need any help while I was there? So, you know, it's nice to know that this community is very, very strong. And that's the reason why I still go to these events, is because the community and the people there are the reason why I play games in general. So it was a good story to tell, a good lesson to learn, and still good times were had. And yeah, the bike ride did happen the day after that. So I got absolutely smashed. and fell asleep on the street actually, and woke up the next day and had this bike ride to do, and I still managed to do it. So yeah, it was an interesting story to tell at least. But yeah, don't lose.
Where did you fell asleep on the street? Where did you wake up? Just like on the pavement?
So I just literally woke up and it was day, and I was like, oh, my wallet's gone, my phone's run out of battery, so I had to try and find my way back to my hotel room in Japan. I had to ask.
Holy hell, man.
Yeah, it was absolutely mortifying, but then I got over it, and managed to get my way back, logged on to my laptop and said to the bike ride boys in the chat, I've lost my wallet. What are we going to do? And we nearly called it off, but luckily everyone banded together to say, right, as well, I can pay for your train fare to get to the bike shop. Then from there, we've already booked the hotel or the Airbnb in Kyoto, etc., etc. So it all just cascaded into happening anyway, which was nice. So yeah, it was just a interesting story to tell, and I managed to capture it all, which was fun. So that's a good memory I'll always hold. And I didn't lose anything because all my banks and credit cards were basically said anything that you lost, because yes, my wallet was stolen, and yes, it was attempted at Family Marts and Lawson's, so people were actually trying my card and debiting it. But luckily, when I got back to the UK and reported it, they gave it all back to me, basically, because I've never reported fraud on my account before, and they could clearly see that it wasn't me. So luckily, I managed to get all the money back that was charged. So yeah, all in all, just came round again. Still made a good experience out of it and didn't lose anything. So that's good. Yeah.
Well, except for your physical wallet and cards and stuff, I guess.
Yeah. And my Superman wallet. I was well gutted. I've had that wallet for 10 years. But there we go. Yeah. Fun times all around. And if you want to go and see anyone who's listening to this now in the future, if you want to go and see all the chaos that unfolded, that is all on Go Again Gaming. All 7 days of the vlogs are up there. Normally, when I go out to these places, like I've done San Jose, Barcelona, etc., I do record a lot, but towards the end of the trip, I just then sort of crash and tail off. But this trip in particular, I captured every single moment of it, basically from start to finish. So yeah, I'm going to be going to Pro Tour London as well, which is just down the road from me. So I'm going to be doing similar vlogs there as well. But yeah. It was fun, and I could speak about Japan for God knows how long. I'm sure you could as well, Kel, because you've been there a few times. But it's just a great place, really.
Yeah. It's looking to be probably a yearly thing for me now. But we won't bore the listeners and viewers too much more, because I'm sure we could talk. a lot.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I mean, like other stuff happened in Japan too. Like well. And try to segue into Flesh and Blood, like the world, like the world championship, and then also they did some announcements and stuff.
There was a Flesh and Blood event at Osaka, was there?
Yeah, it was like in like 1 or 2 of your 7 vlogs.
What happened? I don't remember. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things that did happen at the World Championships in Osaka was obviously there was, as mentioned, the World Championship. There were fantastic showings from actually a wide variety of decks, all things considered. I feel like it's been a while since I've seen like such a high level event have in the top 8. There are 5 different heroes, if I'm counting correctly here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, like 5 out of 8 of the decks are all different heroes, which is really, really great to just demonstrate that they're all like equally viable when it comes to like just the performance of players and stuff like that. Obviously don't want to downplay the individual talents of Grzegorz Kowalski, who took it home with Enigma. But the main thing that is extremely interesting news for today is the fact that in 3rd and 4th place, or I guess tied for 3rd is the way that it's sort of shown here, was specifically Dash.io. And there is a piece of that deck that has recently been banned, which a lot of people were anticipating, I think. I don't think that this is necessarily news. It was kind of a when rather than an if, but there was a scheduled ban and restricted announcement as of today, November 12th. I think it technically came out yesterday because of time zones or something. I don't know. James White posted a lovely article noting that high octane is banned, which they were talking about like card economy, action point economy. It just makes sense. High octane, especially in multiples, just makes you way too many action points. You just get to like basically ignore a part of the game that is fundamental to most other classes. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with their book burning that they did. Yep. He actually does mention that there's a reason that they didn't ban it at the same time. It was because they kind of wanted to have them be different segmented events. And also they were very aware that -IO was going to be a strong deck, and they wanted to see it in the World Championship. You know, have this supercharged high power deck for this event. Obviously, it wasn't something that was like necessarily too overpowered. I mean, there were 2 of the top 8 decks, but as I mentioned before, there were 5 different decks. So you know, it wasn't necessarily the best deck in the format or anything. But I do think that it's a type of design that doesn't necessarily lend itself to longevity. It's something that as they print more cards, especially in like the Armory deck, it just becomes a little bit too good.
It's all part of that same. It's all part of that same bucket or net that was cast over the design principles article that we covered. I think it was just me and you that week when we did it. We read through the whole article that week. I don't know how we managed to do that, but yeah, it was all part of the extreme offensive overlap argument as to it gives you this. It's not as consistent as drawing cards, the action point thing, but when it goes off, you can just present so much damage that it doesn't matter what your opponent blocks with or uses. You're just going to die on that turn. There's nothing you can do about it. So it's that lack of agency, and High Octane can give you that, especially with things like the Cerebellum processor, which just draws you cards if you have excess action points. So yeah, it definitely makes sense, but it's nice to see that they allowed it to happen for one event and showcase the power of it, and then do something about it afterwards. I think it was Sam Sutherland who was in the top 4 with the -IO deck, which was being showcased. But yeah, it's a shame because everyone's like, oh no, sad mechanologist noises. But yeah, I think it was a comment. I think Brian did touch on it during one of the dev talks on the LSS YouTube channel. He did mention that High Octane was on their radar, so it was signalled, I believe, that it could be one to look for. But
mentioned that in the article as well. Yeah, that. As was signaled during the Dev Talk podcast at the start of October. So it was something that like was not out of left field. Mm-hmm. Again, I think people, even outside of that, I think people were probably keeping an eye on it anyway. It's kind of one of those cards that when you see it resolve, you just kind of have to shake your head a little bit. You're like, this is legal in Flesh and Blood? Yeah. Like, you're allowed to do this?
Yeah.
But
and if it goes off, if it goes off as well, if it goes off, it's literally like it's worse than Art of War. If it goes off, you know it's going off harder than like Art of War ever did, or whatever. Yeah. So, but yeah, fun times.
Yeah, Kel, what do you think about this?
Of the bannings, just in general, or specifically High Octane?
Specifically High Octane.
I mean. You guys kind of nailed it. The writing was kind of on the wall. I feel like a lot of the worst offenders in Flesh and Blood history in terms of gameplay balance tends to either boil down to action point or card overabundance of either action point or card economy. Mm-hmm. And I think Chain, that's why I look back at Chain as one of the worst offenders, because he does both. Yeah. And so I feel like High Octane is. I mean, I'm sad to see it go. As someone who's been playing the game since its inception, High Octane has always been one of those cards was like, oh, this card's sweet. It'd be cool if we can break this someday. And it was never really like, it was always like fine. But, you know, after Bright Lights and the Armory deck, you know, it's at that point where people can break it. So
the good thing is,
but then again, I also think, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, the good thing is as well, it's like, it doesn't matter how many cards get banned or whatever, you can still play most of them in the Living Legend format, which is something that is taking more limelight now.
No, that format also got some.
It did.
No, not bans. It got some restrictions, but
it got some restrictions,
which I think is really funny. I'm not. Pardon me. I'm not sure how I feel about restricting stuff in Living Legend. Just, philosophically, but maybe it's because I think of it more as something that it might not actually be. But yeah, I also think it. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think for Living Legend, restrictions are like probably pretty fundamental, because there are some cards that are just like not okay. like again, Bonds of Ancestry, having 9 bonds in a format where you can do absolutely anything is still way too good. Having 3 was too good for Classic Constructed.
I feel that. I just like I was just hoping it would be like
pure Wild West.
Wild West, like, everything's viable. But then again, when I think about it, I'd like to compare it to like Vintage. And in Vintage, you can't run 4 Black Lotus in your Vintage deck. You can still only run 1. So I mean, like, for at least from that lens, I mean, I get it.
Especially with, as well, the focus that is being shifted to Living Legend. They are trying to make it something like the Chicago... Is it Chicago Battle Hardened or Calling, which is happening soon? That is going to be Living Legend format. So I think we are going to see more events that are Living Legend focus. So the more, I think it allows. I think it's nice to have like that focus on it, because it just means that fan favorite heroes like Dromai or other old Prism or whatever can still be played in those formats and not essentially lost forever. Especially if there's a bit more focus on it. So that's good to see that they're doing that.
Yeah, so that's something that I think is actually quite good about Living Legend as a whole, is the more popular it gets, the less bad it will feel when your favorite hero hits Living Legend. Like, it means that you have to then get used to a different format if you wanted to still play that deck. But I think that having that option be available is still great. Just being able to do whatever you want. I think it would be, selfishly, I think it'd be kind of cool if there was a Living Legend Blitz format, but I think that's just that's probably too much, honestly. You would get like, you get to play like Stubby Hammerer's Zen in Blitz, and I don't think that's Stubby Hammerer's plus Art of War Blitz.
Now we're talking.
Oh boy.
I think Zen's part of this article as well, right? He was unbanned in Blitz, wasn't he?
He was un-LL'd because of the point cap increase.
That's right.
Yeah. Bit of a weird situation for that to happen, but yeah, he did technically, because they've doubled the cap for Living Legend points. It used to be 500, now it's 1,000. And they've noted all heroes on the Blitz leaderboard will have their current points doubled, with the exception of Zen, which returns him back to tournament play.
Brilliant.
Which I think it's just kind of funny. I think it's fine. It's it's something that they're still trying to figure out where the sweet spot lands for the Living Legends just system as a whole. But it's kind of interesting that it's like, oh, well, he got banned out of Blitz. And it's like, never mind.
Never mind, he's back. Necromancer confirmed. Zen returns from the dead. There we go.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, there will be no new classes, but a new talent in the next set, at least.
New talent, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Before we get to that, I think this is the one ban thing that a lot of people want to hear people's opinions of, and that is the Count Your Blessings ban.
Yes.
What do you guys think of this? I guess we should say what it is first.
Yeah. So for everybody at home, the other Classic Constructed change that happened, in addition to High Octane being banned, is they did another Bonds style ban, where they didn't fully ban it, but they banned Count Your Blessings blue. So you can only play yellow and red in Classic Constructed, which I believe takes the life gain down to like 30 out of 54. It's something like that. Like, it's a relatively big hit to the overall life gain. And it's, the best one for early game when you don't necessarily care about the life gain, where you can pitch it instead.
Card,
like these ones, the yellow and the red are kind of the cards that you want to play, and not that you want to use. I don't know. They're not as good as support cards unless you're just playing them out. So I think it's fine. There is one part of the article that I personally don't fully agree with, but I think it's just because my opinion of Count Your Blessings is kind of colored from watching it being played rather than actually playing it myself. So I will say that that's like, obviously that's where I'm coming from with my opinion. But in the article, they do state that the play style of Count Your Blessings and the play pattern that it creates is what a control deck looks like in Flesh and Blood. They kind of very outright say, in fact, it's right here. Count Your Blessings Enigma is what a control deck looks like in Flesh and Blood hard stop. And I do get it, especially because James White then goes on to say, like, the idea behind a control deck is not necessarily to kill your opponent and reduce them to 0, but it is to reduce them to 0 of some resource. And with control decks, that would be 0 cards left. So you can elongate the game, you can run them out of everything that they have to do, and then it becomes an inevitability. You know, you have your 3 spectral shields that they just can't deal with. You're poking with them every turn, and your opponent can't do anything about it. That is a win. The only unfortunate part of that is because Flesh and Blood is such a decision-heavy game, both you and your opponent, unless you're playing really quickly and you know exactly what you're going to do, that kind of gameplay, like we saw previously, like Cal has a lot of experience casting games with Oldhim v. Oldhim. Like control decks are fine, but control decks in Flesh and Blood just have that sort of exponential possibility to go to time, and then that just it's sort of a meta thing. It's not necessarily that I think that it's bad for the game. It's bad for organized play. And I understand that that's like something that's going to be inherent if they do want to introduce a control deck, but it is something that's a really hard balance to hit. I think that this restriction is great. I think that Count Your Blessings is just like a little bit too weird. Again, from a meta standpoint, not even like a game meta, like a meta to that meta, you know, we're like a couple levels of abstraction out.
I just don't think it's,
but yeah,
I just don't think it's the whole article about, you know, meaningful decisions, and the one that we read out in full, playing a card that says gain 20 life or whatever it does, you know, it doesn't feel like you're interacting with your opponent very much, and therefore it's just not really an entertaining card to watch. I mean, another sort of offshoot from this is I'm doing another league that means nothing. So season 3 is about to kick off in a few weeks, and I've just banned Count Your Blessings in general. All colours, just because I don't think it's going to be a good way to sort of engage, edit, cast, or watch. Because a lot of people have been saying, "Oh, it's not great to watch." Like I think there was like there was like a 2-hour game on stream. I think it was a Michael Hamilton game. He was playing Count Your Blessings new, and that's another thing. There's another thing as well. Is like you could make the argument that there is a CYB dot deck for every hero. You could put a full play set of CYB in your deck, and then suddenly you just make it a. You know, I don't think that should be a thing. To be honest,
I think my biggest problem with Count Your Blessings and this style of deck is kind of what you guys are getting at, and that it takes too long to actually kill your opponent when it goes off. And I think that's just kind of like a fundamental.
Yeah.
I don't want to say like drawback of the way the Flesh and Blood is designed, but basically your win condition for like control decks we'll use Magic as an example because it's the most known TCG in the West here. So like when you think about a control deck in Magic, they usually have some sort of finisher, right? You're always like, okay, you have your control deck, what's your finisher? It could be a slow finisher. Old control decks had like actual literal millstone, but like these days you have that big old Delve Dragon guy. I can't remember what he's called.
Murktide Regent. That's the one.
Murktide Regent. Yeah. So like you have your big old dragon thing that you play and you kill your opponent after you've controlled the game. Yep. But in Flesh and Blood, the win condition is mill them, like fatigue them out. Wait until they draw their entire deck, and that is inherently just not
painful.
Fun to play against or to like watch as a spectator. It's just the game is over, but now you have to go through the paces of making sure that the game is over, and it just takes so long. And in competitive settings with untimed rounds at the top, at the top cut, it's rough. It's really rough, and I think that's the big difference for me personally when watching control decks in Flesh and Blood versus like other games. Is those other games, it's like they play their finisher, and then the game lasts for like maybe two or three more turns as they just kill you with their finisher. And Flesh and Blood's like, well, now you just gotta grind it out, because the opponent still is drawing cards every turn. Flesh and Blood, you still draw 4 cards. Everyone still has a weapon for the most part, so you still gotta play it out. So
and we discussed this before as well in a previous podcast, maybe maybe a month or so ago at this point, where we was like, well, Count Your Blessings is an issue when Illusionist is a thing, because Illusionist can just get consistent value out of the weapons that they've established on board. They're not fatiguing cards, so if they're gaining life at the same time, that's 2 axes.
Yeah. Well,
that's 2 axes that your opponent cannot really interact with you on. Is your life gain and your board state that you then actively have to attack, which means you're wasting cards out of your deck to attack the opponent. It's like, it's not a good cocktail, I don't think, those 2 things.
Given my example, though, I will say at least Illusionist will kill your opponent with all their crap that they have on the board. At least they have that way to finish the game, so it's not like super long and drawn out. But
yeah, you can land like a Manifestation to Mirror Guy or whatever, and have that be your beater, or like 10,000 Year Reunion, just like slam in for 10 a bunch. But something I will say, even though I did say that I disagree with the fact that I think that this is what a control deck should be, because I think there are a couple different ways that control decks could manifest in this game, but something that he does mention that I do agree with is that the problem is, and this is a direct quote, the problem is the lack of agency that currently exists to engage with control decks when they are this good. And then goes on to say the card pool is either too limited or the go-to options are too easily counterplayed. And I agree with that. I think that's just sort of a side product of, we've been saying it for a while, Flesh and Blood is still quite new. The card pool isn't very wide, isn't very diverse. So it is possible that, you know, in a couple years when there's just more sets, more cards, that Count Your Blessings ends up being like fine. It ends up being like a good meta option instead of just kind of being the best option, because there are certain aggro decks that just don't have a ceiling that can beat Count Your Blessings. Like you have all of your other defensive options, and then you also gain 54 life. Like you start at over double your life total.
Oh yeah, we mentioned in the podcast before too. I think it's just because like life gain in Flesh and Blood is like disproportionately good compared to a lot of other games, just because of what it represents, right? Like on a fundamental level, gaining life also represents undoing damage that your opponent has done to you, and in a game where it's all about like chipping damage here and there, it's a big deal.
Oh yeah.
So I think I froze.
The issue then becomes like, you not only have, because if it was just you gain 54 life, let's say that that's what Count Your Blessing said. It was one card that just said you gain 54 life. If that was what it was, I don't think it would be that big of a deal. But when it interacts with the equipment that you have access to, the fact that you're pressuring your opponent with the other things that you're doing, making them block with cards, discard cards, whatever, and then also your ability to block as well, you're able to gain that much life on top of what you're already doing. You don't really have to make that big of a sacrifice to have that much bigger of a butt, you know?
I do think if it was just one card that says gain 54 life, that it would be a problem.
Well, at least then the games wouldn't go as long. You would just be like, hey, I'm at 96. Now what? It's like, okay.
There's a Magic the Gathering card, isn't there, that says double your life total or something? Beacon of...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but
there's a bunch of them.
Those suck, though. Like, the thing is like, it's quite a bit different in Magic, because we mentioned this before, just of the way that life gain and damage interacts in those games, it's different. But
anyway, so the cool thing as well, they mentioned, I don't recall seeing this one being previewed, but maybe I do. Maybe it's just been a while and it's been a hell of a couple weeks, but they did also mention like a card that they're introducing to help with counterplay to control decks is this warrior attack reaction called Jagged Edge. It's a majestic, so it only comes in red. I believe they also said it's in the expansion slot, which would make sense because it's a warrior card, and the hunted is going to be an assassin set. But it's a red 1-cost attack reaction that blocks for 3, and it just gives target weapon attack. Weapon, not axe or sword or whatever, which is nice. +3, and damage this would deal can't be prevented. So just another way to completely rip through illusionists that try to sit behind ward. Just another option, which I think is great. I think that this not being in all 3 colors is a good thing, because then you would just have access to like 9 of them against illusionists, and it just becomes like an unlosable matchup for warriors.
Yeah, assassin has that too with like pick to pieces, but it's like a telegraphed kind of deal.
Yeah. And it's like they already, like Illusionists already had a pretty bad matchup into Vincent, because you just have the ability on every turn to have this active. You can just pick apart their ward whenever you want, which I think is fine. There's allowed to be 80-20 matchups in card games. But I don't think giving one class as a whole this many 80-20 matchups is necessarily a good idea. So I like that this is sort of pulled back a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the discussion about the classic constructed changes. There is also a couple of things that we sort of mentioned for Blitz. We mentioned that Zen is no longer Living Legend status, which again, I just think is very funny. But they also made two interesting bans here. Belittle. So now you can just play Minnowism. Which is fine. But yeah, getting rid of Belittle in Blitz, I think, is totally reasonable. They say that the reason for that is because Zen is coming back.
Yeah.
Agree. Honestly, it's a really good card. They're looking to potentially review it after they see the results of season 10 and maybe putting it back. So it's kind of on like I forget what they call it. They put it on ice for a little bit. Yeah, it's on the watch list.
Yeah.
So it might not be gone forever, but it is gone for now. And then also Hadron Collider, which is a card that I had to look up.
Same.
Was not sure what it did personally. But yeah, the reasoning behind that one, for anybody who doesn't know what Hadron Collider does, it is a mechanologist item with crank. It costs 1, I believe comes in all 3 colors.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Possibly, yeah, all 3 colors. Costs 1, has crank, so as it enters, you can remove a steam counter on it. If you do, you gain an action point. It enters with 2 steam counters. And then at the start of your turn, destroy it unless you remove another steam counter. And then when you boost an attack, destroy this. If you do, the attack gets plus X, where X is the number of steam counters on it. And it looks like the reasoning for that is just they're worried about Data Doll, which is a phrase, a sentence that I never thought that I would ever say.
I love it.
But yeah, just the fact that Data Doll is able to get it in for free, you don't have to worry about cranking it. It just becomes, I think the damage probably ramps up for each of them. The blue one has 2 steam counters, so I assume the red has 4.
Yeah, 3 and 4. Yeah.
Yeah, so putting, I mean, it's kind of like Boom Grenade. It's just like redundant boom grenades for somebody like Data Doll. So like I can see it, but also Data Doll is 3 intellect.
Maybe they're like in internal testing. They're like, you can high roll this so hard that you OTK someone, and they're like, maybe they don't want that kind of stuff. Yeah. It feels like pretty unlikely, but maybe it's not. I don't know. I don't play Data at all, so
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in Blitz, like, it's a smaller deck now, isn't it? A smaller deck. You still got things like Cerebellum is not a specialization, so Data Doll can use that. She can also use her own specialization, which is the microprocessor.
Microprocessor.
The more items and more armory decks you give mechanologists, the more cracked Data Doll becomes, and it's funny to see that come to light now. And they're like, oh yeah, ban Hadron Collider because it's absolutely insane, and we had to look up the card because we didn't know what it was. So it's just funny that they've identified that in-house and was just like, yeah, we need to get rid of Hadron Collider with all the new stuff. So it's funny to see that happen. Data Doll's an issue.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of like the heavy industry gear shift, the boots that came out in the armory deck are just really good for Data Doll because at those say action, destroy this, banish the top 2 cards of your deck, gain an action point for each mech card banished this way. So if you hit 2 of these red Hadron Colliders, you've just added not only 2 reasons, or I guess you gain 1 action point because it doesn't have go again, but you do that and then you also get 8 damage to your next attack. I could see that being pretty impressive. So
yeah, 100%. Just that one interaction that you've just balled off the top of your head there is pretty insane with Data Doll.
It's pretty good. Like arguably, and this is, you feel free to argue in the comments because I am saying arguably, kind of better than Boom Grenade because it is just a straight plus. The attack doesn't have to hit for it to deal extra damage. So
yeah. Actually helps you get on hits through and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So if you were able to, you boost 4 times, you hit 2 boom grenades, 2 hadron colliders, you're dealing 16 damage on top of whatever your attack is. Like,
could be pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Pretty good.
Nice.
But yeah, and then we also have a couple of changes to. I think Kel sort of mentioned this a little bit ago, but we have some changes to Living Legend as well. This is a pretty busy banned and restricted announcement. For Wizard enjoyers, I think this one was maybe pretty obvious, but they restricted Open the Floodgates, which I also had to look up again. But this is the 2-cost wizard action that deals, I believe, 2 damage, and then if it surges for more than 3 damage, then you draw 2 cards.
That's right.
So it was just a book, like it's unfortunate that this had to come out at the same time, but I believe you could play 9 of this card. I think it's a rare.
Yeah.
So
and there's a lot more amp cards as well now, so this could be pushed over quite easily if you don't try and maybe it. Yeah, so more card draw being banned straight out the gate. So it's restricted, so that means you can only have one copy. You can have 1 total copy.
Right. They do mention that Peter Budenseek deck at the Battle Hardened. Yeah. It did have the maximum 9 copies of this draw 2, which is scary.
That's funny.
So yeah, it's pretty tough, but I could definitely see that being just necessary. Too much card draw, even in a format like Living Legend, is too good. Yeah. And then finally, some good news. Some good news for this banned and restricted announcement. Starvo. Yeah. Our friend, our pal, has access to 3 Starstrucks again. That card is crazy.
I think it's because Starvo is I don't call him the underdog now, but no one's cared about Starvo in a while in Living Legend.
He's not even the best hero in Living Legend anymore, which is he's still good. Don't get me wrong, he's still good, but him not just being the best deck in the format, to me, is bonkers.
It's wild.
Because I just remember it just being, you just can't beat that deck. It's too good. The only way to beat Starvo was to high roll harder on your own Starvo deck.
Just go back to Barcelona Worlds, the whole top 8 was Starvo, wasn't it, in the Battle Hardened? Yep. Which was
I'm pretty sure it was 8 copies.
Literally, 8 Starvos in the top 8. But yeah, it's good to see that. Good to see that shift as well. I think again, Living Legend is becoming more of a diverse and fun format where you can pretty much play any hero you want. So yeah, it's good to see that. Good to see him getting his Starstrucks back, which is an insane card. Bravo actually did quite well at Osaka as well. I think Kale McCreef took Bravo to a 9-0 day 1, I think. So yeah, he's obviously a master on the deck. But yeah, I haven't seen Bravo for a while, so it's nice to see those things happen because it's a classic hero.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I agree. And then one final piece. I think it's been a while since we've gotten any news about Commoner. But there is also a card that got banned in Commoner, and that is Ether Ironweave, which to me kind of makes sense. It's extremely good for a common chest piece. And the reason why is that Chain is able to leverage it, and I get it.
Yeah.
Chain already in Commoner is crazy. He's so good. So makes sense to me.
I don't even remember if there was, because I think is Heart and Cross Strap banned in Commoner as well. I'm not sure because that's just
I think so.
Because that's just crack getting to resources, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
So I think
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see.
Would make sense.
Card legality fab. Card legality policy. For Commoner.
I'm 90% sure it is.
Yeah, I think
it is not.
Oh.
It's actually a relatively small list of things.
Was it banned in Blitz? Hold on.
It was banned in Blitz. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm thinking of Blitz. I was I know it's banned in something.
Yeah. No, it's cards that are banned in Commoner, it is joining, so it's Ether Iron Weave, Amulet of Ice, Ball Lightning, Belittle, and Stubby Hammerers. It's only 5 cards that are banned in Commoner, but all of those are pretty much bangers. Yeah, I think it's for Icelander reasons, if I recall correctly when the news first came out. Please feel free to correct me, but yeah, I think it's just that Icelander just had a little bit too much going for her in a format where especially like kind of everything matters, everything counts, every little bit helps sort of thing. But
Aether Iron Weave as well is a block 1 battle worn, so I guess you could still get some value out of blocking and still have the effect, whereas Heart and Cross Trap is just a 0 block crack, get 2 resources. So that kind of makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, there was a time when I was playing Chain in Blitz that I had, like, you know, you have access to all the cards possible. There were certain matchups where I didn't care about carrying Husk, and Ether Iron Weave was just better than Tunic. Like, it's just, it's so good. You get the 1 point of resource, you get the 1 point of block, and you get the 2 resources as long as you've done the Rune Blade thing. So
attack, yeah.
It's just good.
Cool.
Yeah, so really, really nice changes, honestly. I don't disagree with any of them.
No. A lot of people were saying, why were they not banning the full suite of Count Your Blessings? A lot of people just wanted to see that card go, period. But the fact that they're taking away the resource card version and also curbing the overall life gain because you're missing 3 copies, because when you play the Count Your Blessings, it counts all of the Count Your Blessings in your graveyard to get the thing. So I guess they're curbing the life gain total on that quite a lot. But a lot of people were still calling for that card to be banned outright. So it'll be interesting to see what difference it makes going forward. The blue version just going, the yellow and red still being played. Yeah.
What do you think, Kel?
No opinion, really.
Yeah, I mean, we have discussed it pretty well. I think we've all said our piece. So
yeah,
I'm not a big fan of life gain in Flesh and Blood, and I've always thought like a life gain central hero or something would be very bad and not fun. So
this makes sense as to why Cleric has not been explored yet.
Yeah, seeing it now, it's kind of tough. But if there is a hero, now that I'm thinking about it more and more, I do think that what I have been saying thus far in terms of like what a control deck should be, and what Azz mentioned as well, or Kel mentioned about like control decks in Magic. If there is a control deck, it would be similar to what an illusionist can do, because of that you can land like a Manifestations of Mirror guy and just keep slamming your opponent. That ends the game at least pretty quickly. But yeah, the issue I think is just that they don't have as many consistent options to end the game quickly, and instead end it sort of deterministically, where your opponent wants to play to their outs, you know, unless the game is completely done and they only have like 1 card left that they have access to, then I think they're probably going to play to their outs and try not to concede. Even if for all intents and purposes the game is over. But if there was a way to sort of wrap up the games in a little bit more of a round timer friendly way, then if there is a control deck that exists in Flesh and Blood, I think that Count Your Blessings, Enigma, or Prism, or somebody like that would be sort of what that's looking for, because they're able to generate a threat that sticks around and you don't have to worry about what your draw is, sort of thing. Yeah. But that was some pretty exciting news overall. Do we have any interesting promos for, or I guess revealed cards for the Hunted that I am not paying attention to?
Yeah, so there was a big reveal as part of the World's Osaka Championship sort of keynote event, that the next set is going to be called The Hunted. So we haven't really discussed this at all, because with I think the last podcast we did was before the keynote. So yeah, there's a big article on it. And Kel, you're pretty excited about this, I imagine.
Yeah. So The Hunted is pretty sick. It's a new mainline set, new draftable set that has 3 classes. assassin, ninja, and warrior, and it is directly, and this is what I love, one of the things I love most about it, it's directly following the story that was laid in, like, the foundations of Uprising and Dynasty. So we had Uprising, Dynasty, and then we had Outsiders as well, and it's kind of a mix of this kind of like story thread, which I think is really cool. So essentially what's happening is that now that the Emperor is dead by the hands of Arachne, who was in the lore tricked essentially into assassinating the Emperor, by whom we don't know yet, but they were basically given a false contract to kill the Emperor, and so now the Emperor, or the dynasty of Volcor, is seeking vengeance, and they are, quote, hunting the assassins down. But it's kind of one of those situations where it's like, well, are they hunting the assassins, or are the assassins doing like a reverse hunt? They even kind of hint on this at the things like, oh, but who really is the hunted here? And so it has four new heroes, and I'll tell you why I know that. We have Syndra, which is a new draconic ninja. She looks absolutely incredible. Art by Livia Prima. She looks so awesome. We also have a new warrior hero whose name is Fang. And then we have two unknowns, and we know this because they have released the Blitz deck pre-con box set things, and it has those two characters and then two blank decks. It's like two unknown Blitz decks. So probably two assassins, and probably maybe both Arachne. And why I say that is because as part of the previews that they showed in Osaka, that's not on the website for some reason. No. But here I can paste it in case Bill hasn't seen it. That Arachne, there's some stuff going on with Arachne here. So okay, let's break it down. If you haven't seen it yet, there's an image of what looks like to be Arachne with a cloak of demon eyes, and their weird hump thing is gone now, and they look all like demon transformed a little bit. And we also know that this is Chaos. This is the new talent. This is a Chaos assassin, because we have seen some of like these little card images, but with no like rules text, and it says Chaos assassin. So yes, we have a new talent. It's Chaos. We have a returning talent. It's Draconic for the two characters from Volcor, and we have the Chaos talent, which is, I assume, to be the Pits talent, because the Aesir under the Pits is the Aesir of Chaos. And so what makes this interesting is because, so we have this image of Arachne. It's definitely Arachne. They have the mask, but their hump is like gone, and now they have this weird demon eye cloak thing. But behind the image are 6 other versions of Arachne that all look remarkably different, but they still say Arachne on the card. So if you haven't seen this image yet, it's like the Marvel side of a hero, right? So it doesn't have any like rules text, it's full art, but it still says the name, and it still says Arachne on all these cards, and it says Arachne, it says Chaos Assassin on all 6 of these. And so this is what I meant by like, I want to talk about Arachne, because there's a lot of theories out there. We have no idea what's going on. Why are there 6 Arachne heroes? Are they all the same hero that just has different art on them? Or is it different transformations of the same hero? Are these all like demi-hero versions of Arachne? Lore-wise, what the hell's going on? Is Arachne like 6 or 7 different people? I guess there should be 7, right? Because there's the 6 card images, and then there's the image of Arachne. I would wager there's 8, because there are 8 legs on a spider. But I'm very curious to hear a lot of people's thoughts. I would like to hear folks' theories in the section down below. Yeah. I think one of 3 things is very likely to be going on here, lore-wise and maybe gameplay-wise. The first one is that some people have suggested that Arachne, quote, Arachne, is actually a parasite or a symbiote. And that's what the hump was. The hump was actually the hump was Arachne. and there was a symbiote attached to a body. Now that we have all these different versions of Arachne with very wildly differing body types, and some of them are like very monstrous, some of them are more human. Maybe that's the symbiote attaching to different beings, right? And so there's still technically Arachne because Arachne is the symbiote and not the human part of it. So that's one theory. I think it's good.
Would make sense. Would make sense. While if Arachne was in solitary confinement, they had to confine them to the cell to make sure the Arachne disease does not escape, for instance. But yeah, I mean, I've just flashed up the image now while you were speaking about the hunted. So the viewers that are watching at home will be able to see the image that you just posted in our little chat. So there's 6 little different arts there, and all the arts look very, very different as well. You're on the far right of the screen here. You can see like this mechanoid sort of style Arachne. You got this this web weaver one. I think they're all called something different as well. It's like Black Widow, Orb Weaver. They're all based on spiders, I think.
I mean they all have like a spider motif, and that kind of leads into another theory that was proposed by a good friend of the podcast, Kale, Dudsummer Art.
Yeah. And
they proposed that Arachne, that the hump was like basically just like chaos energy kind of like being stored up, and it has burst now. And that's why you see on the forefront image of Arachne, it looks like the hump has now it's become this weird demon eye cloak thing. So they don't have that weird hump anymore.
Yeah.
Now it's like this demon eye thing. And they suggested that now the hump is burst and gives them new powers, like these new chaos powers. Maybe they can shapeshift or transform, and the very word chaos means, multiple different things, right? Like chaos literally means like not random, but like chaotic variables. And I think that could be a very good theory. And the third theory that I've seen a lot of people subscribe to is that there was never one Arachne, that there was always multiple characters named Arachne. Like Arachne is just a moniker given to top assassins. This is the one I think I like the theory and I like where it's going. I think this one's very unlikely based on the lore, based on the established lore. If you've read the Arachne lore and the Uzuri lore, I think it's unlikely. It doesn't canonically match up. But I think it's a cool theory. And I think if they have eight Arachnes, the theory is a little bit. I do like the theory a little bit more because your 8 top assassins for the spider are all called Arachne, and so very very spidery themed. But the reason I don't think this works for the lore, by the way, is that Uzuri found Arachne as a child at the South Maw Asylum and basically rescued them. And Uzuri gave Arachne the name Arachne. And but before they were like a trained assassin. So it doesn't make sense that they would give the name of the top assassins to like a child that's not even trained yet. I don't know. There's a lot of lore stuff that I don't think that particular theory lines up. But I'm very curious to hear what folks have to say. Gameplay wise, bro, I don't know what's going on. I know we have at least 2 heroes that we don't know about. They could both be Arachne. They could be Arachne and a new Uzuri. They can be a new assassin. They can be a lot of different stuff. But we definitely have 2 new heroes. In the Blitz decks, and a bunch of Arachne cards, I wouldn't be surprised if these are like functionally identical, like on the gameplay side. They just have like different arts. If it was like a symbiote, or if it was a transformation kind of deal that's going on with Arachne.
I'm trying to find another image as well, which was shared as a result of the.
Which one? I have a lot of them.
Yeah, it's the one that says Arachne, and then it's got all the weird numbers, and it says
through the cracks.
Yeah.
I don't have that one.
It's like because it says chaos assassin hero with 38 life.
Here you go.
Yeah.
I had this up because I wanted to make just an observation. I don't know if this is a misprint for them, if it's intentional, if it's whatever. But like for all intents and purposes, this looks like sort of the adult version of Arachne solitary confinement. has double their life total, has basically the same line of text. The only issue is that Arachne solitary confinement, in each individual word matters here. Your first attack with stealth each turn has go again. Arachne slipped through the cracks says the first attack with stealth each turn gains go again.
Tag team.
First.
Yeah, tag team. Let's go. Two Arachnes.
I guess, but then also like if you're playing against another Arachne, then their first attack gets go again too. Like that would feel pretty chaotic. I will say that does feel very chaotic. I would need to get some confirmation about whether or not that is just an oversight in the wording, if that's something that they did want us to notice, and it's like, oh, this is different. This is like Kel said, tag team, but very slight difference.
Yeah. This card is it's a promo rarity, which is also interesting.
Yeah, you can get
with
this
like this extended art.
You can get this at the world premiere in Prague, I believe. If you haven't said that already.
The art is bizarre. It's very, if you're an audio only person, it's very like abstract. It looks like
I flashed it up on screen now so people can see.
Yeah, it's like this like bright pink and bright blue vortex of like what looks to be like masks and Arachne faces, and there's one prominent one that is holding a katana between its masked teeth. Yeah. And it's just this weird abstract thing. There's no body to be seen. There's just abstract masks floating around. It's weird.
Pure chaos energy.
Yeah, it's definitely very weird. And then the way that they spelled "slip through the cracks" is like kind of, I don't know if you want to say cringe, but it's kind of funny for Flesh and Blood because it's written in like leet speak.
It's very holds up spork, you know?
Yeah, it's like to Ponzors, kind of.
And we did
the Penguin of Doom.
Yeah.
There has also been this weird code sort of thing also on another lore article. I think it was in the Bright Lights season. There was like a lore article which had this weird code stuff going on when like the metric stories. I can't remember which one it was in particular, but this also reminds me of the colours and the hues in this card. Also reminds me of Teklovossen, the Necropotent, and Singularity. It also reminds me of those pink hues. So maybe there's some sort of weird, because metrics in the pits are also connected, right?
Teklovossen basically like formed a pact or forced a pact maybe because through technology with like the beings beyond, like in Arathiel, and that's why he's like now Shadow, and the chaos god or not chaos gods. This is the god of chaos, but the old ones are very suspected to be originating from Arathiel, and so like that would make sense because they're both kind of like the same type of being, right? Yeah. Because like it's heavily implied that all the plagues and all that kind of stuff in the pits are happening because of the Aesir of Chaos underneath the pits. Like they're like underneath the pits and they're causing all that stuff to happen. So yeah, maybe we'll get some actually like more concrete lore on this kind of stuff. It's all out there if you like go super digging through it, but a lot of it's kind of just like, you know, a sentence or two here or there. Not a lot of it's like super fleshed out. And so yeah, what do y'all think of like? Here's another thing I want to mention too. So we have Arachne slipped through the Ponzors, and we have the other image that has 6 other Arachnes, not with that art, different art, as well as the figurehead Arachne in the front of the 6. So that technically is 8. Just saying, that's 8 right there. There's the 6 in the background, the 6 cards in the background, the foreground Arachne, and then Ponzors Arachne.
I feel like that. So, I feel like I've switched the image again so people can see visually, but that Arachne with the Resident Evil sort of growth with the eyes and stuff going on, that looks like a hero to me. It doesn't look like a attack action card or an action card. That looks like it's going to be striking hero pose. I'm not sure whether that's already confirmed, but
so we do know. I'm pretty sure all of the. I'm trying to see. They blurred out all the words or a lot of the words on the cards like behind them, and I'm pretty sure those are just I think they're just extended art versions of like hero cards, right? They're like Marvel versions of hero cards. If you kind of like really look at them.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think it's, but it's hard to, it's really hard to read what they are. They could be like demi hero cards though. Like they might not actually be like full blown hero cards. So
yeah, well they've blurred.
It's hard to tell.
On the image. They've blurred out what hero is the Marvel version for, essentially. So yeah. But yeah, I can't wait to see what happens with what this character is here, the Arachne with the weird eyes and stuff on the shoulder, but also what the chaos talent is actually capable of, because we all know in various other card games, Chaos Warp and like all the chaos cards in Magic, they just do so much weird stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how Flesh and Blood really sort of takes on the chaos talent, what it decides to do with it.
Yeah. I don't know if we should get into it today, but they have shown 5 cards from the set so far. None of them have to do with what we're talking about. Well, actually, 2 of them do. There's 2 assassin cards. There's a Draconic Instant and a Ninja attack action, as well as a token, which is called Fealty, that kind of turns your hero into a Draconic for one.
Yeah.
Or turns an attack into a Draconic for one mode. And there's also another token called Marked, where you can mark a target. And all it says is you are marked until an opponent hits you. So I assume that just gives you an additional effect.
Extra flavor.
Like if you hit a marked hero, do extra point of damage or whatever.
Yeah. Or maybe there's a hero that actually wants to be marked, wants to be hunted.
Oh, wait. JK. Yes. I have the reason. So there's 2 cards. There's one called Extinguish Flames and the other one called Defang the Dragon. And they're basically the same thing. There's 0 cost stealth assassin attack actions, 3 attack, 3 block. Contract, you're contracted to hit a marked hero named Syndra for Extinguish the Flames, and Defang the Dragons, you're contracted to hit a marked hero named Fang. Whenever you complete this contract, draw a card. So there you go. It's like if you mark the hero and you hit them, you do a thing.
Extra stuff.
These ones are hyper specific. These ones are super specific to hit those specific heroes.
Yeah.
And I think it goes into the theme here. Like I said, like it's like these characters are going out to hunt the assassins down to get revenge for the Emperor, but the little flavor text blurb on the image that Azz showed, it says the hunter becomes the hunted. And I'm not sure which way that's flipping, so could be a thing where, you know, Arachne fighting back, they go Super Saiyan mode. Actually, I think I like Azz's comparison to Resident Evil. They go
Tyrant.
Resident Evil mode.
Yeah, the Tyrant in Resident Evil 2.
It's like, there's always like a common theme in Resident Evil games where like you get to the bad guy and you get them cornered and they're like, you're not taking me, and they like inject themselves with like this hero, and then they become some horrible monster. And I always think every single time that happens, I'm like, what was your end game? Do you think you're just gonna be like, go back to your house and get a beer after you become like a 50-foot tall flesh monster? Like there's no going back from that. Now you're just a 50-foot tall flesh monster.
That's funny. But yeah.
Anyway, yeah. It's spot on observation, as I didn't think about that before, but it is very, very Resident Evil.
Yeah. I mean,
anyway,
there's quite a few cards that were spoiled. I mean, we can delve into them another time, perhaps, because there's a few other cards as well that are spoiled as a part of other products, which we're not going to go into today. We might as well save it for another day. There's some pretty sick stuff coming out right now. I'm quite stoked to see what support Warrior will get in this set. I know we've already seen a little bit the Jagged Edge, which gives them another tool into the Illusionist without damage prevention. Maybe Dory can level up. Maybe Olympia can level up a little bit with some generic Warrior support, but we'll see.
So let me give a quick rundown of the set. We're not talking about any cards, but I just want to mention some of the stuff. So yeah, this is a main booster set. It is a draftable set. The stuff, the breakdowns seem pretty standard. It says for draft, remove the last 2 cards before adding them to your pool. And so the last 2 cards will be 2 tokens, a token and an expansion slot, a token or a legendary, or a token and a cold foil. So pretty standard stuff. The set size is 265 cards. However, the Japanese version is 267 cards, that has 2 additional legendaries, which are reprints, Braveforge Bracers and Valiant Dynamo.
Oh, cool.
So to get those in Japanese.
Yeah.
And then the set breakdown is there's 1 Fabled, 6 legendaries, 42 Majestics, 66 rares, 130 commons, a whole bunch of tokens, 16 tokens, and 17 marvels. Whew, there's a lot of this dragon amount of marvels.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the breakdown. English, French, German, Italian, Japanese, and Spanish. MSRP $120 for a booster box. But obviously map is like whatever percentage lower than that. That's the breakdown of the set. Like I did mention, they will have the Blitz collection that has 4 decks. So we don't know who the other 2 characters are. Obviously, one of them is going to be Arachne, but
Yeah.
maybe it's just 2 Arachnes. I don't know.
2 Arachnes. Chaos Arachne, and then the other one. Well, they're both Chaos.
And then
Yeah.
I think it'd be funny if just the lore was actually that Arachne split into 2 people, and there's the good Arachne and the bad Arachne.
Oh, yeah.
Dragon Ball.
Arachne slipped through the cracks, Chaos Hero, and then there's Arachne, helps old ladies across the street, light assassin hero.
Arachne did help.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, Az and I were like, they helped the children.
They helped the children
the
deliver the presents. Yeah.
There you go.
They even did the thumbs up. I remarkably remember this. Is when they're doing the thing. Arachne did like a thumbs up before like piecing out.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
With all of that being said, you, the listener at home, thank you very much for tuning in and hanging out with us. Who do you think that Arachne truly is? That's going to be the engagement question that I come up with for the end of this.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Let me know.
I have a question for Az.
Yeah.
How happy or unhappy would you be if Azalea got like chaos fucked? Like,
Well,
if she got like
that could be interpreted in 2 different ways there, couldn't it?
like if she got like corrupted by the chaos, right? If they made a new Azalea and she's no longer like regular Azalea, it's now like, Azalea Chaos Stalker or something,
Yeah. Neon Stalker or Chaos Stalker or something. Yeah. I would love that because I love the whole sort of dark and light thing. I like if heroes can be really, really good, but then also fall into absolute chaos and despair and then maybe get themselves back out of it again. If you've played Soul Calibur, there's a character in there called Nightmare, which is also Siegfried. It's the great sword wielding character, which has both his normal version and the Nightmare version.
Got a double tap forward heavy or double tap forward vertical, and he does like a rotating slam, and you can kind of like dodge. Dunk. You can like dodge out of the way.
Yeah.
I played a lot of Soul Calibur, but
it's a classic arcade game.
It's it's been a while since I've been to a lot of like the big Flesh and Blood events, but it was a tradition for a few Flesh and Blood events in a row where like me, DM Ramada, and some other friends would play Soul Calibur. Like after the events, we'd go to like a barcade or something and play Soul Calibur.
Yeah, it was. It's one of those games that Flesh and Blood was sort of compared to as a fighting game because it's got similar sort of fantasy-esque characters fighting each other. But yeah, I would love that. If Azalea had an alternative shadow version, that would be sick.
Chaos
version, yeah. I did. Obviously, there's going to be expansion slots in this set as well for other classes and heroes that aren't in this set. So we'll see if there's any Ranger support or other character support in here as well. Normally there is, as we've discovered going forward. But I did say to James when I was in the bar, I was like, James, there's obviously Ranger stuff coming out this year. Can I spawn some more Ranger cards? And he was like, yeah, of course you can. So we'll see what happens there. So we'll see what happens there. But
it's just that easy.
Yeah, it's just that. I just asked him. You just have to. If he's there, just ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. That's what my grandma used to say. If you don't ask, you don't get. But yeah.
Oh yeah.
Looking forward to it. See what happens. Bit of chaos.
But yeah, I think that'll just about do it for us. Once again, the engagement question of the day. What do you think the prevailing, or what do you think the correct theory about Arachne is? Are they multiple people? Are they just one person kind of going through a weird timeline style dealy?
Yeah.
What do you think? Let us know. I'm very interested to see what your theories are.
Symbiote.
Are they a symbiote? That one's really cool, actually. I like that. And
We
then
are
next,
Arachne. Instead of
yeah,
we are
next,
Venom.
next step, we'll get like Carnage Arachne.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, so I've been Bill, as always, from the Spike Feeders and the Living Legends podcast. You can find me on social media at BillTSF, as well as at bill.spikefeeders.com. Yeah, we do content sometimes. I was talking with my buddy Jay about it.
Nice.
And I have a line to buy myself an adult IRA because CNC for 7, it's just a good time. So there may be some content about that. There may also still be some content about Betsy. I do still want to put that deck together because I think that she will be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, just keep an eye out. Thank you for your patience. And I'll throw it over reverse alphabetical to Kel.
Cool.
Hello, I'm Kel, and I'm ready to enter the Arachniverse. I do content, TCG content, over on Red Zone Rogue. Currently on my personal channel, taking a little bit of a break of Flesh and Blood, so covering mostly anime TCG stuff, but I've kind of gone on a little side quest to cover at least every major TCG on my channel once. I have a new series coming out where I check out a new game, and the format is essentially kind of like a what is the game gameplay section with a guest who's like very into the game, usually a content creator friend, and then another talking head section afterwards, giving my opinions on the game. And so we have Star Wars Unlimited lined up, Lorcana, and Union Arena for that. And I'm gonna be expanding this series as time goes on to feature new games that come out. So in the future, we'll have like the Godzilla card game and Hololive and all that kind of stuff. So if you like card games, you want to see mostly anime TCGs, but if you'd like to see a little wider selection and discussion about the industry as a whole, come find me on Red Zone Rogue. So that's that. Mostly Shadowverse and Grand Archive right now, but some other stuff too. So yeah.
Nice.
Oh yeah. And then finally, last but certainly not least, Azz. Where can the people find you? Who are you?
Who am I? Some randish British bloke that loves Strong Zero, apparently. So I'm Azz from Go Again Gaming. So Go Again Gaming YouTube channel. So there's going to be quite a lot of CC Flesh and Blood content on there with the League That Means Nothing 3. It's every season has grown 100% in size. So for the first season we had 12. Next we had 24, 25. This season we've already got 32 signed up. With a cap on 50, so it's going to be pretty insane this time round with regards to all the heroes that are being played, and you're going to be able to see Jarl in action in this season as well. There's going to be people playing the new Ice Earth Guardian, as well as Ira. So Ira is also going to be played as well. So make sure you check that out when you can. And all the vlogs, as I mentioned before, about all the chaos and stuff is still on there to be watched as well if you want to see all of the experiences that I had in Japan. A lot of people from the community appeared on those videos, especially the Irish lot did spend a lot of time with Ian, which is a lovely guy. But yeah, so lots of content coming out over there. And you can find me on the socials at Going In Gaming AZ. On both X and Blue Sky at the moment. And yeah, that's it really, pretty much. Not much else.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that will officially wrap up this episode. Thank you once again for our listeners and viewers for hanging out with us. It's been a blast as always, and stay well, stay safe. We'll catch you all in the next episode.
Yeah. Cheers, folks.
See you, folks.
Goodbye.
Bye.